We're going to go live. Hey, we are suddenly live. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, depending on where you are in the world, because we have a global audience. This is episode 24 of Moor Insights Strategy Datacenter Podcast. I am this week's host. My name is Matt Kimball. Let me introduce you to the host of the next one, Will Townsend, and the estimable, is that a word? Estimable Paul Smith Goodson?
I'll accept it, yeah.
I like that. He is the smart one. So you've got what I like to think of as the beauty, the brains, and then we have Will, and I'm not sure what Will is yet, but we'll figure that out. So the beast. There we go. Hey, we got a lot to talk about. Episode 24, we're going to do this in 10 minutes or less. Episode 24, a lot of news over the last couple of weeks that we want to tie off on. Before I start, please be sure to hit the like button. I'm going to tell you this now and later. And also, don't trust a single word we say as far as using this for investment purposes. That's really important to take note of, because none of us, while we all look smart, we're not. So yeah, there's that. So listen, guys, you had a good couple of weeks. Been on the road, going to Think, going to Dell Tech World, going to Microsoft Build, Nutanix Next, everywhere. Everyone's doing well. Are we ready for a fun podcast?
I am so ready. It's been nice to be home for a week, Matt, but I am back on the road next week, 3 weeks in a row in Vegas. Yeah. So Cisco Live, Zscaler Zenith Live, and HPE Discover. So I am already hydrating. I'm already taking my vitamins. And I'm staying very, very focused.
And already breathing in some clean oxygen. So as you go through those smoke-filled casinos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got you. All right. Well, listen, like I said, we got a lot to talk about. Nutanix, Dell, SB1047. I'm going to guess that's a Paulism. Microsoft, IBM, AI, and then earnings season. So let's jump in. I'm trying to get more Paul-like in my headlines. So let's see how this works out. First one, Nutanix is moving and shaking with Dell and Lenovo. So here's the deal. A few months ago, Lenovo signed an agreement, a partnership, or entered into a partnership with Cisco, whereby they would co-engineer solutions, HCI solutions, hybrid cloud solutions that were targeted at easily deploying and standing up and managing within an enterprise's organization. Done wonderfully with that. In fact, at Nutanix.next, they talked about a new appliance, if you will, called GPT in a box, whereby you could stand up a Gen AI environment pretty quickly on Cisco and Nutanix hardware. That was doing very well. In the meantime, there have been some market dynamics that have taken place with other virtualization providers and hybrid cloud providers and HCI providers. We won't name them by name, but some market dynamics. VMware. And with these dynamics, I think, other organizations have found or vendors have found opportunities here. So in the last couple of weeks, Nutanix entered into similar agreements with Dell and Lenovo. With Dell, they announced it at .next, and Lenovo was kind of a softer announcement, but it's the same kind of story. Co-engineer a turnkey solution that an enterprise IT organization can deploy, can stand up an HCI environment, hybrid cloud, private cloud environment, Gen AI environment with just a few clicks of the mouse, and they're off and running, and really kind of becomes a control plane for infrastructure. I love what they're doing here. I know what they're doing. As VMware, sees attrition kind of in the ESMB, right, enterprise, commercial enterprise, and down market segments. Nutanix is a logical landing place. So this is good for Nutanix because it provides ready-made solutions. Also good for Dell and Lenovo because, it's easy for them or it gives them another kind of leverage point in with those companies. I don't know if you guys follow this stuff at all, but if you have any thoughts, either on what Nutanix is doing or what you've seen with VMware, it'd be interesting to hear.
Well, hey, Matt, I've got a question. So, and I know that you spend a lot of time with Nutanix, and I'm super impressed with, what they're doing with like big tech, right? So you mentioned Cisco, now Dell and Lenovo. I mean, what is it about Nutanix that's so special? Is it their IP? Because they're a relatively new company, right? Or am I wrong on that point?
Yeah, I mean, they're new in traditional standards. They're not in tech standards. They've been around since, I think it's 15 is when they came out with their first HCI solution. So they've been around about 10 years. What is interesting about them, they are the pioneer for HCI, right? They took virtualization and they saw these challenges in storage and compute and said, we have an idea, right? And their focus from day one has been simple. And that's why organizations use them. That's why they're so popular as you look kind of down market into the mid-market, small enterprise mid-market. They're so darn popular because their technology is so easy to deploy and so easy to manage. So if I want virtualization and I want to be able to manage my environment and do it, but I don't have the resources to spend on a VMware certified engineer or somebody else, Nutanix has been such a great solution to fill that need, right? And as the market's progressed and they've progressed, that portfolio has gotten bigger and bigger. They've gone from compute and storage to compute and storage and networking to compute and storage and networking. Hey, and what about database? And what about seamless like kind of cloud migrations and multi-cloud migrations? So it's really kind of expanded their capabilities, but always with that focus on simple, right? So it allows a small company to act like a cloud provider essentially, and that is a really great value add. VMware has been far more sophisticated in how they do things, far more complex. And that's I don't mean that in a negative way or a positive way. They just have been, right? They've taken a different approach. And so they've had kind of these two approaches and they both staked out their claim. One kind of gravitated more toward the larger enterprise. One gravitated more toward the smaller enterprise. But with all these licensing issues going on with VMware, Nutanix sees a real opportunity. And, Dell, Lenovo, these companies, I think they're seeing these same opportunities, which is why you're seeing these partnerships.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for the education on that.
Hey, that's what I'm here for. Teacher Matt. Boom.
I think it's more details come out. The impact and benefits of this partnership will become clear. But the outlook looks great for both of them.
Yeah. Really are. And I think leading with AI is, or having AI as kind of that killer app, if you will, is a good entry into a lot of companies. So it's going to be fun to watch.
They need to do a pretty good integration and performance tuning and strong market positioning.
Well, that's what I like about what they're doing, Paul. It's not, a lot of times these partnerships are really just take our software, install it on your hardware, and call it a bundle, right? And there's really nothing more. They're actually going in and they're, like in the case of Cisco, they integrated Intersight, which is their management cloud, I guess you would call it, or management utility, that's cloud-based. They've integrated that in with Nutanix's management platform, and they've allowed greater levels of integration and management of the Nutanix environment. Dell's taking a similar approach. I suspect Lenovo will too. So, they're really going in and delivering, a deeper level of value than just take this and make it run and hopefully it'll be okay, right? So I like that.
It's important that, they've got, seamless transitions with the customers and they got to maintain their scalability and flexibility. But.
Yep. Yeah, without a doubt. So listen, I took 7 minutes longer than I was supposed to on that. So we're
got 3 minutes to go. Come on, Matt.
With that said, let's move on to Mr. Pissy, Will Townsend. So Will, Dell Tech World, networking and edge updates. Hit us.
Yeah. And I'm sure, Matt, you're going to want to jump in here too, because you're able to attend towards the tail end of Dell Tech World. But surprise, surprise, the theme was AI. Go figure, right?
No.
And both Mr. Dell and Jeff Clark, the COO, used the event as an opportunity to speak to what they're doing with what they're calling Dell's AI Factory, and that includes a host of announcements around compute, storage, as well as networking and AI PCs. So what I'm going to hit are sort of the networking and the edge highlights. So Broadcom was center on stage with, I think it was with Mr. Clark, and both companies spoke to their collaboration, how they're expanding Ethernet, and this is something that you and I and Patrick, our founder, have waxed nostalgia about on Forbes. We've published an article around what Broadcom is doing, as well as Marvell. But this was sort of bringing it all into full focus. And so there were a couple of products announced. There was a Dell power switch that's using the Tomahawk 5 chipset. And Broadcom claims it's going to double performance over its prior generation silicon. And this is super important, right, to feed these very power-hungry AI workloads, and also be power efficient at the same time. And then there was also an announcement around a new PowerEdge solution that supports Broadcom's 400 gig PCIe Gen 5 Ethernet adapter. So that complements that power switch. And I forget the names. It's a jumble of alphanumeric characters, but at the end of the day, it's all about improving performance, improving latency, and doing all that, very power efficiently. So I'd like to see Dell do more. They also spoke about what they're doing with their Sonic distribution. Mm-hmm. And certainly there are benefits there. I mean, Dell, it's leaning into its DNA. It's, Dell is about open source. And Sonic does that for Dell as a networking operating system. I'll be publishing a research note that sort of captures this and native edge that I'm going to talk about in a minute. But I would like to see Dell do a little more with networking beyond, leveraging the latest merchant silicon and, having their own, kind of flavor of a Sonic distribution. I don't know, Matt. I mean, am I being too critical there?
You're never too critical, Will.
Well, as analysts, we're paid to be critical, right?
Yeah, there's a fine line between how much a company like Dell leans into delivering that kind of that plumbing solution, right? And I don't mean plumbing in a derogative way. It's just, as a compute guy, networking was always like mysticism and like
right. Or so maybe even a second thought, right? Because Dell built such a a market share leadership position with compute and storage, right?
Mm-hmm. They have, but the question is, when you've leaned so heavily on compute and storage, right? Networking is absolutely critical to AI, right? The plumbing is absolutely critical. How fast can you move data from point A to point B?
Yeah.
But while you've staked your fortunes on, compute and networking, at what point do you start, butting up against, preferred solutions that are already done? This is where I struggle a little bit, right? Yeah. If you look at a company like Cisco that is so well kind of entrenched in enterprise networking, right? And is the solution of choice for a lot of companies. And you'll go into a lot and you'll see, Cisco switches and Cisco networking gear right along Dell servers, right? Yeah. It's like, at what point are you pushing too hard or essentially pushing a rope, right? Yeah. And I don't know where that line is for Dell. They have to have some kind of solution, right? And they have to have a complete end-to-end. But do you want to push so hard on your customers, your own solution, that you put other sales at risks because you're pushing too hard on one where maybe they already have established vendors in there? I don't know. It's a space for me.
It's interesting. It's interesting. Hey, well, let me hit Native Edge real quick too. So I'm not sure if either of you have heard of Native Edge, but I spent time with Dell, and I don't recall, Matt, if you were there as well. It was in Austin. There was sort of a Dell AI day. Yeah, you were there, and I had a chance to speak with the Native Edge folks. And so Native Edge is something that's been out for about a year. Dell acquired a company called Cloudify in early 23 and used it as a basis to launch Native Edge. And there was a project, Dell likes to use these interesting project names, but it became Native Edge. And what Dell positions Native Edge as is the only edge operations platform that can scale to securely provision devices and manage them across multi-cloud environments. And I've seen some demo activity on this, and I think truly Dell has found something that's going to be very valuable when you think about what they're doing to sort of ease the provisioning of devices by issuing credentials ahead of time. There's a lot of root of trust that's built into the silicon level of what they're doing here. And, from my perspective, as we start to see AI workloads move from the cloud down to on-premise and on-device, Dell could be in a great position to capitalize on what they're doing with Native Edge.
I'll tell you, the 2 weeks of that, or the 2 days of that summit they had back down in Austin, they take you through everything. Again, AI was the focus, but that Edge session was the most interesting one to me. I'm with you. I thought the approach they were taking around provisioning, securing, managing, updating in real time, the whole from end to end, it felt like they had the Edge story kind of sussed out pretty well, and not just the story, but the technology behind it as well. I was pretty impressed with what they were doing.
Yeah. They're bringing Airspan and Druid in also, I think. Airspan, Air Gap. Yeah. They, Paul. We should probably set up Paul on a call with them too. Be pretty impressed with how they've built this solution. Well, I don't want to take from, but how they built this solution out. Or acquired it and then integrated it in. But it's literally a kind of sit back from your house in Austin and manage your edge environment, with just a couple of clicks. It is so simple. Let me phrase it. It's so complex, but they've abstracted every bit of complexity from administrators' kind of hands, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry. Okay. Let's talk about SB1047. We've all been talking about SB1047, haven't we?
Is it like Beverly Hills 90210, maybe?
It's
my neighbors asked me about
it's Paul Smith Goodson 1047, Dangerous to AI. What are you talking about?
Let me decode this. SB1047 is a bill that California is looking at to further regulate AI. Kind of worries me when we get so many regulations, especially government and state regulations.
People that don't know what they're doing or understand the technology is evidenced by the Facebook hearings from a few years ago on Capitol Hill, right?
Yeah.
We've got a lot of internal organizational type safety regulations within the ecosystem. We've got a U.S. executive order that I think Biden put out, safe and secure and trustworthy development. That looks at guidelines for federal agencies, how they can use it. California, Colorado, and other states have got other laws that regulate AI and automated decision making. There's a lot of task forces, but this one looks like it's targeting large language models and generative AI. It's gone through a couple of sessions. I don't know when they're actually going to vote on the final bill. But my concerns are that the way they've got this structured, there's a lot of companies, AI companies within California. You look at the AI Alliance, it's got over 100 companies, and the Alliance, open source alliance with IBM and Meta. There's a lot of those companies, smaller companies that are in California. And I think that this may put an undue burden on them because it is targeting the larger models. They've got a restriction that takes them if it's been trained with something with 10 to the 26th hour, then it's going to fall under these regulations. And I think we're getting pretty close to it now. I don't know exactly where we're at. I think a lot of the models have been trained with like 10 to the 23rd power or 10 to the 24th. You look at a brain, we've got our compute power is about 10 to the 14th power. That's like
Oh, wow.
flops, you know.
Wow. Not all of us.
But you know, my big concern is I've got two concerns. One is we don't want to put restrictions on something that's going to cause us to lose the advantage to China, because China's doing a lot of AI research on military and especially autonomous AI applications. So when you start getting up to, I mean, AI really can't do anything. I think we talked about this once before. An AI model really can't do anything harmful to humanity. You know, take up, do really weird things like trying to pretend like it doesn't know we're testing it and stuff like that. Unless AI becomes self-aware, and we're so far away from models that's being self-aware.
Yeah.
I mean, we're like 2 decades away. We don't even know how our own consciousness works. So you know, I don't think they should, you know, rush to judgment on this, but they're gonna pass it. So it just needs to be. I think it needs to be moderated a little bit.
Paul, do you see companies leaving California over something like this?
I mean, I can't see them doing that. Yeah, I mean, you know, there's a lot of restrictions on it. There's a tendency for other states to jump in on things like this too. But
Sure.
yeah, if you've got a lot of restrictions, I mean, people are going to end up, resources are going to end up putting a lot of time in trying to meet the standards, doing the testing, taking away from doing advanced research. So
Yeah, I'm trying to make us look cool. It just seems to me, oh, there we go. All right, I figured it out. Yeah, it just seems to me if I'm a startup that's kind of building the next big thing or working with data and AI, and you know, the state I'm working in is super restrictive. There are 49 other states that I can consider, and maybe the number's more realistically like 10 other states, but there are still other states I can consider that.
Yeah, worst case is that they don't move from state to state; they move to another country. So,
yeah, or that too. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
when you got $2 and $3 million packages, I mean, you know, pretty easy to move around.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
But you know, but thinking along those lines, I mean, when you look at like the European Union, I mean, look at GDPR and look at like all the regulations in Europe. I mean, would you want to relocate to Europe? I don't think so. But where else would you go? You know, Middle East,
Argentina.
you know, Argentina, Brazil. You know, who knows, right? But
yeah,
it's interesting.
Yeah, and it's not just so easy as just kind of packing up and moving, right? You've got a talent base you have to consider, and you know, do you have those folks you can recruit and bring with you? And yeah, but anyway, it's an interesting challenge.
Yeah.
Hey, so let's move on, because I'm the worst offender, but we're not moving at the pace that we need to be at. So let's move on. Next one. This is where I really tried to channel my inner Paul. Talking about Microsoft Build with Cobalt as my CoPilot.
I love that title. You know,
You like it?
Remember that old movie?
Thank you. So I killed 2 birds with 1 stone here. My big takeaway from both of these, from Microsoft Build, was involved in both of these. Cobalt, the ARM-based CPU that Microsoft has built for Azure, and CoPilot, obviously their AI tool that is meant to.
Your cleverness was off the scale on this.
What's that? Oh, thank you.
Was off the scale on this. Yeah.
Can I quote you on that?
Yeah, sure.
I'm putting that on my LinkedIn profile. So first is Cobalt. Cobalt 100 goes into public preview. Microsoft is claiming somewhere in the order of 40% better performance than any other ARM CPU that's on the market. I think they're trying to include the other cloud providers as well as the merchant silicon that's out there. Interestingly, I met with the team, really sharp bunch of guys. But they're going to be aggressive with this, just like AWS has been with Graviton, and Oracle has been with Ampere, and we expect Google will be with Axion. But super aggressive. No workloads are off limits. There are obvious affinities for Cobalt, but it's going to be fun to watch. I know that Graviton is about 25% of Amazon's or AWS's install base right now, or deployment right now. Be curious to see if Cobalt reaches that level with Microsoft, but really cool technology. They've got a roadmap. They've got a vision. They know where they're taking this thing. It's going to be fun to watch and see how this impacts the x86 players. That was my first takeaway. My second was CoPilot. And, I've always thought of CoPilot as, hey, help you summarize meeting notes or help you summarize, an email thread that's going around, right? And that's really good. One of the demos I got was from the GitHub team, and it was how CoPilot actually helps in the app dev world through prompt engineering. Write a function that does this, write a function that does that. It's incredible to see the levels of productivity that you can drive within an organization with a tool. And I'm not saying CoPilot is the end all be all. That's what I saw. But how much productivity you can drive across an organization, whether you're an engineer, whether you're a marketeer, whether you're a financial guy or woman, there is so much to be gained from this. It's going to be shocking to see, a couple years out, every enterprise not using a tool like this to help them in their day-to-day. The GitHub thing blew me away. Kind of when you think about how you break down software development and you build out different modules and pieces and do your regression testing and integration testing and all that. To when I saw the demo they gave and kind of apply that to what I know, it's incredible how much faster you can get to product, get to value, get to solution through a tool like CoPilot. It's not going to replace people, but it's going to replace a lot of the mundane, which is where we spend a lot of our time. Really, really cool solution.
I think, Matt, it's got the potential to really drive innovation in software design because, to your point, so much of coding, and I know this because one of my daughters studied computer science, and she doesn't like to do it now. In fact, she's a program manager. Mm-hmm. But so much of coding there's a lot of mundane, activity, to your point, mm-hmm. and that sucks up, a lot of the time that can be spent on innovation and creativeness and that sort of thing. So not only does it sound like, something like CoPilot can drive faster time to market, but I think it's going to really drive innovation. And to your point, there has to be human beings involved in that process. It's not type in a prompt and it spits out the code and you're done. It's going to really enable creativity for programmers. So that's super exciting.
It should, yes. I remember having this discussion though when iPhones first came out with an old colleague of ours who I used to work with around the impact it was going to have on kids. And his position was, well, when you look at the iPhone and Google and what you can do, it's going to free up their time to be more creative in other areas. And, 10 years later, it's really just doom scrolling. And, I don't see the creativity, but it certainly has that potential. And hopefully, that's what we end up seeing. But, and the numbers they were showing around, productivity, time saved, and value. Once there's a hesitancy among smart people who develop software to want to use tools because I can do everything myself, right? I'm the smartest guy in the world. It's amazing. They showed some number of the percent of developers that have tried it that saw immediate value in it, and it was like 86% or something like that. Immediately realized, oh, this is a game changer for me. So for, a bunch of really smart people who know they're really smart people, right? That's another nice way of saying they have big egos. To realize, what they can gain out of this, it says a lot about, what it's going to be able to do. But
Sure.
I don't want to belabor. That was only like 4 minutes, so we did pretty good on that topic.
Awesome.
Paul, do you want to add anything in before I move on to?
Yeah, we can move.
Okay, let's move on to. Yeah, Will, we're going to work on your creativity, okay?
I know.
We're moving on to IBM Introduces Concert. You could have done so much.
Oh,
I
there's
know.
much material there.
Yeah,
I
come
mean,
on, man.
You two are raising the bar, so I'm gonna raise the bar on the next podcast. So, but I'm gonna hit this really quick because I did publish a research note yesterday to our website, Moor Insights and Strategy. So go check that out. So we are in the thick of event season, as we were saying earlier. Dell Tech World, Microsoft Build, and IBM Think.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did not have an opportunity to attend Think, but I did get a preview on something that they launched called Concert. And Concert leverages the Watson X AI tech stack, and it's designed to provide application visibility into application performance, network bottlenecks, and it's all about driving improved user experiences through higher levels of orchestration and automation. And I think when this came across the wire, I recall, Matt, we had an internal chat, within the firm around, what is this, man? Is it like AppD? And as I dug into it, it's just that. And there are 3 use cases that I'm going to hit very, very quickly that IBM is promoting out of the gate. And obviously, as the platform matures, there'll be more. But the three initial high potential use cases are application security risk management, application compliance management, and application certificate management. All of those things are very tedious to manage. There's lots of revisions and certificates. Yeah. There are security implications to that as well. And with something that IBM is calling Concert 360, it consolidates all of that into a single view. It is leveraging an AI engine to do that. It's also integrating generative AI to make the natural language interface that much smoother. So I'm going to leave it at that. What I will say, though, what I like about IBM Concert is that I kind of feel like Watson has been, and Paul may disagree with me, but that Watson's been trying to find interesting, relevant use cases over the years. I remember when it debuted on Jeopardy, and it beat Jennings, who I think is the all-time winner on Jeopardy, and someone else. That's when the public really got to know what IBM Watson was. But I think there have been some hit or misses over the years. But I think for Concert, this really could be IBM's home run from my perspective. Obviously, it's in my coverage area, so I'm going to be a little bit biased about that. But I'd love to get Paul's take on this.
Yeah, the early adopters of Concert reported had really good reports on it in operational efficiency and the platform's ability to automate routine tasks and provide insights and stuff. So, I think they've got a winner.
Yeah.
Is Concert? Is this an IBM tool for IBM environments, or is this a tool that I can use for my, for my applications that are developed, on different platforms and run in different platforms? Do you guys know?
The platform is designed to support compliance with all kinds of industry standards and regulations that give a business the tools they need, or legal and ethical and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it's
ethics. Who needs ethics? We don't need to speak in ethics. Excellent.
All right, let's move along. That was 3 minutes.
That was 3 minutes. That was you rocked on that one, man. So thumbs down on the name of your section there, because we could have done a lot.
I'll work on it.
On timeliness. All right, here we go. Figure out whose this is. Ready? Go. AI reads your brain. I wonder.
That would be Paul.
This one is actually kind of a fun one. It's not fun if you're in the wrong position, but a paper came out just a couple of days ago on a bilingual brain reading device. It can decode both in Spanish and English. and they put this device into a guy that had a stroke, for a young guy, 20 years old, and he was bilingual, Spanish and English, and they've learned from doing this. They've learned a couple things. One is that the way the brain processes language, both Spanish and English kind of come from the same area of the brain, and they didn't realize that before. The guy's name was Pancho. That he's 20 years old and lost the ability to speak well, and a neurosurgeon at the University of California was the guy that put this together. And by putting this device into the brain, it can actually read the neural signals and interpret it into a language, either Spanish or English. The first thing that came out of this device when they put it on him was, "My family is outside," and like I said, he's bilingual.
Yeah.
And he felt more comfortable with Spanish, but it came out as English. So, but anyway, they trained the system with about 200 words. They've got a neural pattern established for each word with electrodes, and the initial accuracy, if I remember right, it's about 88% accurate in determining, on using the first word to determine if it's English or if it's Spanish, and it's about 75% accurate in decoding the correct sentence. So it's pretty neat. I think there's going to be a lot of usage out of it. If you were traveling the world, eventually you're traveling the world and need to know how to speak Russian or Chinese or whatever, this thing could evolve to that. One thing that they were able to do, they could switch from, what's amazing to me, they could switch from one language to the other in the same sentence. It's like me saying, I speak a little Russian, like me saying, "Kako vas dela, ich heiße Paul Smith Goodson." In other words, that's Russian and German, basically in the same sentence. So interesting.
So Paul, does this help for nonverbal people as well? I mean, is this a...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what's the output? So I have some device that is, I have a neurotransmitter in my brain, but I have something that I'm holding in my hand that kind of voices.
External device, yeah. Yeah, it's external. I haven't gone all the way through the paper, but I just thought it was really interesting.
That's incredible, man.
Yeah. Now what they're working on is, a bunch of different languages, Chinese and Mandarin and Japanese, it's really neat.
Yeah.
So much for that. I thought that was my inner voice, huh? Man.
Yeah.
I don't even want some of the stuff that runs through my head. There is no way I want it being displayed or spoken in any language, not even Latin. All right, let's go on. We have 9 minutes.
That's it for me.
What was that, Paul?
I just said that's it.
Oh, that was fantastic. That was a good one. We have to look that one up. Hey, last thing I wanted to talk about, and this we treat this as like a roundtable. Earnings season's in full flight. Want to get your thoughts. So, everyone's been reporting out. Intel had a decent quarter. AMD had a decent quarter. Dell announced this week. Lenovo announced.
Marvell announced. Yeah,
Marvell,
this week.
Nutanix. Yeah, lots of announcements going out. Anybody want to hit on any of these before I give my spiel?
The only thing I can say is if we could go back in time and remove AI from the equation and look forward to now, these would not look like this.
No, they would not.
Yeah, no kidding. So my friend and colleague Ed Ellett, who's now back at Dell in an executive role when we were at Dell Tech World, he made a really interesting comment that it seemed like the tech industry was searching for water, and AI has become that water. So it's really supercharging tons of these companies' earnings that are focused on AI. And I think all the companies that we mentioned, that they've got some sort of design on leveraging the gold rush that's occurring with AI.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of putting it. They've been kind of in the desert looking for that oasis, and AI is. I thought it was interesting because just most recently, Dell, they announced they had record revenue for server sales, which they attributed to AI, yet their operating income was down, which was interesting because those AI servers are typically very richly configured. And their storage business was flat, which is interesting because storage is the French fries to the compute being the hamburger of the AI world, right? So you would have thought there would have been you would have seen an increase, which tells me it's a very competitive space. And they must be selling at lower margins than we would have expected. And again, because this is so richly configured, you would have thought that maybe
it'd be the opposite.
Yeah. Nutanix had a killer quarter. Pure Storage had a killer quarter. Both up double digits where the market otherwise wasn't. I wonder, Paul, to what you're saying, if you did remove AI, Dell said they had a strong quarter outside of AI on servers, as did Lenovo. But I wonder if you remove that AI number, what those revenues would actually look like.
Yeah. It's affected everything.
Yeah. It is.
You mentioned Dell operating income was down year over year.
I'm talking about for ISG. Sorry, for the Infrastructure Solutions Group. Yeah. So server, storage, and networking. That number was down year over year, and not much. It was only down a single percent. But when your revenue is up 42% and you're attributing it to AI, you would think that operating income would be a little, would be reflective of that, but it doesn't seem to be. But killer numbers. Everyone is reporting just huge growth in the amount of stuff they're selling. Maybe they're not selling it for as much, I guess.
The Dell 9860 server.
Yeah. Yep. That's a server. It's their GPU server with NVIDIA. They're going to have I'm sure they're going to do something with AMD. I think they already announced it. And I know they announced they're going to do stuff with Gaudi 3 as well. So
well, I'm going to just say that's an example of AI driving something.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. And they said their AI server backlog was up 30% year over year. So, clearly, they can't make these servers fast enough. So, anyway, interesting season. Lots of good numbers coming out. Good to see companies like Marvell doing great. Broadcom's doing great. And it's going to be fun to watch this over the next few quarters as supply chains start to ease up a little bit on the accelerator front as well. But we're coming up to the top of the hour, and we all turn into pumpkins at the top of the hour. So
I just want to mention one thing.
Yeah, please do.
NVIDIA's 10-for-1 stock split.
Oh, yeah. Like next Friday, right? I believe. And have y'all been tracking the stock? So it got as high as 1,200 and change, and there's been some profit taken. So it's sort of down in the 1,000 range, but an all-time high for the company, and ahead of a 10-for-1 stock split next week.
Absolutely incredible. Dell was at 170 or 180, 179 was it? A record for them. AMD was up around 200. It's these companies are just killing it. They're truly carrying the market. But listen, we talked about a lot of stuff, guys, and it was a lot of good stuff, and we had a lot of fun. To the 40,000 people that are watching us right now, Don't use anything we said as advice for investment. Please, for the love of God and everything that's right in this world, do not trust us for investing. Okay. We talk about tech. We love tech. We goof around. We give our opinions, but they are not educated. It's not financial advice. And, if you like what you hear from us, please tune in again in 2 weeks. If you don't like what you heard from us, don't tune in, but do your Reddit reviews or Twitter reviews. We pick on Will all the time. Let's do Paul this time. Okay.
Yeah. Send it to Paul.
Let's target all your negative energy toward Paul. All right. Okay. Paul, I love your response.
Paul's just like, whatever. We love your snark, Matt. We love your snark.
Listen, you guys have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you again in 2 weeks. And have fun in Vegas. Paul,
Yes.
keep kicking butt, and I'll be in Boston and Vegas. I'll see you in Vegas at Discover.
All right.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Hey,
Take care.
Thanks.